How? Fahrenheit 11/9. So Fahrenheit 11/9 is the new documentary by filmmaker Michael Moore. It is a play on words to his film Fahrenheit 9/11 that came out in the early 2000s, but he swapped 11 and 9 to make 11/9. Should be noted that the day after the 2016 presidential election, a world where a lot of people woke up to news that Donald J. Trump was now president, that date was 11/9. I imagine that's why it's called that. So as you would imagine from the title, the concept, the person who made it, and the poster, he's gonna tackle the Trump administration. And in this politically divided world and climate, I am looking forward to this comment section. What I liked about this movie is it does tackle what Republicans have done, what Democrats have done to the years leading to this, and how both sides, and I give Michael Moore credit for that, both sides failed the people. It's the wealthy. The government's been a business. The business wheels kept turning. The rich people have stayed in power, and the people who are not rich, well, not so much. I give Michael Moore credit for going after both parties in some capacity. Like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, in hindsight, they're very revered and very missed. They puts them under some scrutiny for actions they may have taken or some policies they had. Granted, he doesn't dedicate the entire movie to it. They're generally speaking cliff notes in here. But as Michael Moore is not a Republican, I imagine it wasn't easy for him to go after the Democrat golden children. So props for the tough decision. So I like the fact that this movie asks, where do we go from here? There are a lot of people who are like, well, I'll run for public office. For the life of me, in that whole montage of information in the movie, I don't remember what public offices they're running for. But I do like the fact that normal people are like, I'll run. I'll be a public servant. But this movie tackles shootings in America. Flint, Michigan, there was a water crisis. I had heard about this water situation in Flint, Michigan, but never really knew much about it, and holy fuck, this information I got from this movie, it's crazy that this even happened. It's crazy it happened. It's crazy it happened for this kind of time span. That's what I like about documentaries. They can kind of shine a spotlight on something you might not have heard about otherwise. But really, Michael Moore does do a good job with humor, wit, editing, music, tone, but in that he does use music and editing to massage a tone into your brain that he wants you to see. So it's not like you're getting 100% objective information. You're like, all right, I'll just assess what I assess myself. No, with editing, tone, and music, he does point you towards a path of perception. As much as I'm a fan of Michael Moore's technique, sometimes it does come across as a bit hypocritical. Michael Moore has a talent, he really does, but I see him doing in here what I see a lot of people doing in conversation with people that might not be on the same spectrum as them, which is qualifying the intent of somebody, is why someone does something. Qualifying someone's intent, I feel like you need to be sure if you're gonna do that, and sometimes he does that in here without enough information for me to be like, yeah, it's totally the leap you should take. Like this shit that happened in Flint, Michigan. First of all, has anyone been arrested? Because that's some hardcore information that this movie gave us. But that's not the reason I bring this up. The reason I bring this up is in this movie, it shows this politician essentially went on a crusade to poison this town. Like that's the information you get walking out of here. And then Michael Moore says that Donald Trump thought, well, if that politician could get away with that crime, what crimes could I get away with? Which is straight up assessing the intent of a human being. Now, full transparency, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I'm just not. But I am a fan of an objective mind when taking on something like this. So if you're gonna sit there and say, hey, I know exactly what Donald Trump was thinking, when I wanna know how you got that information, like cite your sources. And I struggle to see how doing that is different than other people who are kind of hated in the media doing it. And I myself am not above doing that. There have been times that I've been like, oh, I think this happened and maybe this happened behind the scenes of a studio, but I try to be transparent in me saying, I don't really know. I'm just spitballing here and trying to find reason in madness. Like imagine Donald Trump saying that about anybody. And he thought to himself, if he could get away with that, what crimes could I get away with that? He thought that, believe me. If he said that, the media would grind to a halt. They'd be like, we interrupt this broadcast covering the hurricane to give you this thing Donald Trump said. Holy shit, he said this person thought they could get away with a crime. What a dick. Or how about Alex Jones? And he thought to himself, if that person could get away with crime, then maybe I can too. Sounds kind of fucking mad coming from Alex Jones, right? But really, the inflection and tone, Michael Moore uses a very soft tone. He says it like, and Donald Trump thought if he could get away with this criminal activity, then what criminal activity could I get away with? And since he says it's so calm, I guess it's fine. So I kind of see a tone of hypocrisy. I don't even know who I'm aiming that at. I don't know if I'm aiming that at Twitter, the news, Michael Moore himself. It's just an observation I have in the climate of the world. Certain people can say, do, and imply about other people when those other people can't say, do, or imply about other people. It's weird. He does, of course, go into the court of Trump being essentially Hitler. Not even essentially. There's literally video of a Hitler speech and there's Donald Trump audio playing over it. I'm just kind of, the Hitler thing thing. I hear that every election. I hear about how they're the next Hitler. I heard that about Barack Obama from Republicans. I hear it about Donald Trump now from Democrats. Essentially, the way I see it, Donald Trump was elected as a fuck you to a system that a lot of people felt had failed them. And if that's how people who voted for Donald Trump feel and felt, then this movie, I mean, at least they have that in common, right? Like, that's common ground. This movie addresses the fact that that system failed a lot of people. For a moment there, I felt like this movie was reaching across the table like, hey, I kind of understand how we all got here. Then it throws the Donald Trump Hitler thing out there, and I was like, come on. Donald Trump's an asshole who wants to expand his brand and get rich, and he's using the presidency to do that. Should a president do that? No, but that's what he's doing. But really, if I'm looking back at all the documentaries I've ever seen, they're not objective pieces. A documentary is essentially a filmmaker's way of saying, I see things a certain way. So I'm going to take information, edit it, use music to make a tone, to provoke an emotional response so the audience understands why I see things the way I see it. Essentially, documentaries are a filmmaker's way of getting the audience to validate their mindset. They're there to be an entertaining way for a filmmaker to inform you on the angle or perspective that they want to inform you on. And we all bit that hook on Making a Murderer. Making a Murderer, we were like, fuck, I cannot believe that innocent man went to prison. At least I did. I bit that shit hook, line, and sinker. Because we thought we were completely informed. We didn't think that they would omit information, but they totally did. There's a lot of stuff left out of that Making a Murderer documentary in which you're like, maybe he did do it. And in the case of Michael Moore in Fahrenheit 11/9, sometimes he's seemingly objective in how he tackles certain issues. Other times it seems like he panders to the paranoia of the masses to keep that well-oiled machine, that monetizable machine of internet hate and fighting alive. And that I shouldn't be harder on Michael Moore than I am on most directors who direct documentaries. They're all doing the same thing, just with different content, different subject matter. I can go on and on, but I'm just gonna end this here. Guys, in the end, Fahrenheit 11/9 I found really fascinating. I found it interesting. I like seeing how a filmmaker assesses information and wants to present it to us. I think Michael Moore's a fascinating person. I'd like to sit down and talk with the guy for an hour. Hour probably wouldn't be enough. We'll run it to 3. But I had a good time watching it anyway. It did ask some good questions about where do we go next? Who takes up the mantle? Is the US political system as it is right now, is it an obsolete format? I don't even have the answers to that, but I'm glad that he at least started a conversation. Even if sometimes I was left wondering, where'd you get that info? But I'll say I personally found this movie to be a good time. No alcohol required. I feel like this video is going to piss off everybody or piss off nobody. I guess we'll find out later. All right, so Fahrenheit 11/9, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.